Hi everyone, it's Andrea Tooley from AndreaTooley.com. Today I wanted to talk about time management strategies, and tons of people ask me, how do you manage your time? What's the best way to get things done? You know, the life of a pre-med or a medical student or a resident is crazy busy, and so you must be a time management expert. And if you're not, and you make it to medical school and residency, by the end of all that, you will be a time management expert. Or at least you'll know what works for you. But if you guys are in high school, college, or even struggling with time management in medical school, then these are just some of the tips that have worked for me, and so I hope they work for you. I've made a couple other videos on time management or kind of organization skills, so you can check them out here, and I'll make sure and link to those. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing that I think is very important with time management is to kind of preset your schedule and really you have to be on top of your schedule, and you have to know what's going on and what you're required to go to, what you're not required to go to, things like that. And so if you're in college, I feel like generally you have to go to all of your classes, or at least I did. There were very few classes I couldn't go to in college. So you have to have some kind of schedule, and you must fill in those classes that you have to go to. And then there's meetings or sports, extracurriculars, leadership activities, anything like that, tons of stuff going on in college. And so fill in those pre-requirements as well. And then everything else is your extra time, and that's yours to figure out how you're going to make the most of it. And so I think ways to make the most of it are, at least for me, if I'm going to study, I have to be in a focused mindset, and it's really hard for me to study or learn just in like random short snippets. I kind of have to be in like study session mode. And so when you have like 30 minutes between classes and it's not really enough time to study, or you have like an hour to kill before you have to go to a meeting, it's not really enough time to like get all your stuff and make a plan and get out your notes and like really start getting into big study mode. But those are huge portions of your day that can add up into many hours, and so you have to try to make the most of that time. And so I would try to do things that didn't require 100% focus or concentration. So any kind of busy work things, like that's a good time to do emails, that's a good time to do any kind of household chore things that you need to do, like get your mail, take your garbage out, random things like that, or anything that doesn't require a ton of focus or brain power. Don't let that 30 minutes between classes slip away unused. And don't let that hour you have to kill just be burned. You need to make 100% good use of that time. And so think, like, what can I do right now to check off my checklist? And what can I do right now that's going to help me later on down the road and eliminate something else that I have to do later? So pre-schedule your time, really know when you have to be where, and then try to fill in the gaps as much as you can with other things to kind of check off your list, all right? Then another thing is to really think about how you're going to maximize your time. And for me, this came into play in medical school. So at Indiana University, where I went for medical school, we weren't required to go to all of our classes. There were some that we had to go to, like labs and things like that. But there were many lectures that were recorded online, and we could access the online recording an hour after class had finished. And so being physically present in class wasn't necessary. And I quickly learned that for me, being in a big lecture hall, listening to a lecture was not valuable. And I just did not gain any information from that at all. And it wasn't helpful for me except for taking notes from the lecture. But it wasn't helping me study, it wasn't helping me learn. And it ended up being a huge waste of time because it involved driving downtown and parking and walking to class and talking to friends. And it just ended up, 1 hour class ended up being like 2 hours of my time, and really amounted to like 0 of learning. And so I started not going to class. And I would either stay at home and listen to the lectures at home, or I would go to the library all day and listen to the lectures at the library. And that way for me, I could pause and take notes when I wanted to. I could speed up the lecture if things got boring. I could go back and re-listen to something again if I didn't quite understand it. And I could make sure that as the lecture was going, I was really, truly absorbing the information more so than I did in the classroom setting. And so for me, that was such a valuable use of my time, was not going to class. And so I think you need to be honest with yourself, and if something's not working, don't waste your time doing it. Don't go to the study sessions. You know, some classes like chemistry, we would have like a review, if you don't learn anything in those reviews, don't go. You have to know you, and you don't just do something because you think you're obligated to do it. Being pre-med and being in medical school is hard, and I always thought to myself, I have to do whatever it takes to get to where I want to be. And so for me, if that takes not going to this review session, even though it's recommended, I'm not going to go. And so kind of things like that, just really think about how you're going to maximize your time. Okay? This has been kind of a theme throughout the whole thing, but obviously keep a schedule. It really helps me to write things down. I used to be much more diligent about keeping like a very tight planner and agenda, and now in residency I don't as much because I'm working more like 7 to 6 or 6 to 6 every day, and so there's less planning in residency, I think, but in medical school and college I kept a planner and I was really on top of my schedule, so you must do that. Okay? Another really good way to save time and help manage your time for me has been to meal prep. And this kind of goes into the whole healthy living thing, but being in college and being in medical school, it can be really hard to stay healthy. So many people eat out all the time, and they're always ordering takeout or they're going out to lunch. And number one, that's super expensive, and you save so much money by not going out to eat. And if you can grocery shop and make your own food, you're going to save a ton of money. So that's number one. And number two, it's just so much healthier. It's so much better for you to cook your own food, and I can't stress that enough. And so cooking my own food, and not all the time, but for the majority, has been so necessary for me. I always have something made for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that I know I can go to. And if I want to go out to eat and, get something as a treat or whatever with friends, then I totally do. And that also gives me a little bit of freedom. I feel like since I know I'm eating a healthy breakfast with lots of fruit and lunch and dinner with vegetables, then when there's cookies at lecture or when somebody brings in brownies or something, like I never turn any of that down because I'm feeling healthy. But in terms of the time management aspect of it, I think prepping your food saves you an enormous amount of time. You don't have to drive somewhere to get something to eat. You don't have to sit there and cook something all the time. So make a big batch of something. On the weekends, I like to grocery shop on Saturday and then cook on Sunday because I think it's too much time to do the grocery shopping and the cooking all in one day. So I break it up, and that's just how I do it. But figure out what works for you and make some food. Maybe you just make a big thing that you're going to eat for dinner all week, but make something that helps you save time in terms of eating healthy, taking care of yourself, that kind of stuff. All right? So another tip I have to kind of manage your time when you're studying is to try to make the most of your study time. And a lot of that in these days is eliminating distractions. I'm so old, but when I was in college, we only had Facebook. Twitter came out kind of, but there was no Instagram. Pinterest was like a little later. There was no Snapchat. YouTube was like kind of a thing, but the only distraction we had was Facebook. And so I can't imagine having to go through college and medical school now with Instagram and Snapchat and all of this stuff just kind of inundating you. And it really affects your brain and affects the way that you focus and concentrate. And so I want to kind of make this also a public service announcement. Be wary of how social media is affecting your brain power and your focus power, all right? Because your intelligence and your brain is the best thing that you have. And if you find that every 10 minutes you pick up your phone and you're scrolling through Instagram, that's because you're addicted to it, and you get this little hit of dopamine from the anticipation of what picture am I going to see next, and maybe it'll be something good, and you become kind of dependent on that stimulation that's so artificial and not natural and what our brain is kind of made to do. And it changes the way that you study, it changes the way you process information. And so don't let that affect your brain power, okay? Really, really be self-conscious about how often you're picking up your phone. And it's so hard. And I feel myself being drawn to Instagram or Facebook, and you just feel this compulsion to check it, and you want to see, who liked my picture and whatever. And I think it really affects your concentration and affects your productivity. And so in terms of time management, you got to be on it and be disciplined. And maybe that means in exam season, deleting Snapchat and Instagram from your phone. Just take the app off your phone. I had to take Pinterest off my phone. And maybe that means, if you need to concentrate, you just log out of things. And so it's an effort to kind of log back into things. I used to always log out of Facebook so that every time I open Facebook, just habitually, you just open it automatically. Like as soon as you open your browser, it's like the first thing you type in. So I would log out so that then I would get that login screen and it would remind me like, oh yeah, I don't want to log in. I don't want to look at that. So eliminate those distractions when you're studying to kind of help manage your time and be very productive, okay? And then another thing you can do to manage your time when you're studying, I picked up this tip from another YouTuber. I'll have to think of who it was. But they suggested setting your phone for, setting your phone on a stopwatch. And then every time you get distracted, stopping your phone and starting it over again and then seeing how long you can go without being distracted. And it's kind of like a game you can play with yourself to see how good you are. But you have to be honest and actually stop it when you get distracted and then start it over again. But what I've always done is set my phone for 50 minutes and said, I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to do anything for 50 minutes until my alarm goes off. And I'm going to be laser focused on what I'm doing. And then after that 50 minutes, I can get up and go to the bathroom and get a snack and look at Instagram for a minute or whatever. And I think that really works, doing it over and over, because you're getting a break. And if there's a finite amount of time that you have to study, then you can kind of be on board with that and really kind of laser focus for that hour. And the other thing is that when you really get into studying, you kind of lose yourself in time. And so when you feel like you must maximize your study time and your time management when you only have a short amount of time to study, you gotta pump yourself up. And I remember being okay, in this next hour, I'm going to master this concept. And I am going to just understand it so well. And don't just read it. Be okay, really get into it and think about it hard and say, how am I going to conceptualize this? How am I going to remember this? And then make some kind of mnemonic or funny memory tool in your head and really kind of master that one chunk of information. And by kind of getting yourself so psyched up and into it, I think that it puts so much more power in your studying and can really give you much better results for a short amount of time. So that's kind of my study time management tip. And then the last tip I kind of wrote them all down on this paper here. The last tip I have for time management is to remember to say no. And I know this is super hard as a medical student, as a college student, even as a resident, but you're going to be offered so many opportunities and so many different ways that you can get involved and so many different times that friends are going to want you to go out. And it's just, you can't do everything. And so you have to know yourself and you have to know when to say, no, I can't go out tonight, or no, I can't join that club, or I can't pick up that research project. As much as you want to, you really have to be able to kind of check yourself and say, do I have room for this in my life right now? And is this going to compromise my grades? Because I think when you're in college, number one is grades, okay? Really. And you have to take care of yourself and do all those other things, but don't choose some other activity that's going to make your grade sacrifice, or that's going to sacrifice your grades. And I know I've talked about it before that you can take this too far and you can go over the edge. And there's been times in life where I've been so hyper-focused on getting good grades, and I've, kind of said no to every time my friends ask me to hang out, and I've kind of sworn off any fun. And it ends up backfiring because I'm so stressed and unhappy that I don't do as well as I wanted to. And so you kind of have to find that balance. But I really want to stress to you guys that saying no is not a bad thing, and it will help you if you feel comfortable kind of evaluating how many things you have going on and whether or not you can say yes to an opportunity that's been presented to you. So those are my time management tips. I really hope you like them. They're just things that work for me. I would love to know your time management tips, so comment below. I feel like you guys giving each other suggestions and commenting on other people's comments is so great. So I want to encourage you to keep doing that, keep helping each other out. This pre-med and medical community is fantastic, and we should all be kind of boosting each other up and helping each other study better, time management better, take care of ourselves better, love medicine better, because at the end of the day, it's going to make us better doctors and it's going to pay off for our patients, all right? So just remember the end goal, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!